up to the boys, Fox and Shane. Set your minds free, no locks and chains. Do what you love, roll the dice. 50-50, we cold as ice. One thing cold, but a penny turn red. Can't let that shit down in my head, war gaming.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Hobby Homies. We are your weekly tabletop podcast. I am Shane, hanging out with Fox.
Weekly? Didn't we skip a week?
We missed one. Yes. And Churchy.
And Rory.
And Rory. Hey. Live studio audience. Today we are talking about Keyforge, a game of unique decks.
Mate, I'll do the explaining.
Was it a flash in the pan? Who knows?
Who's Pan? Who's Pam?
Pam.
Yeah, we are talking about Keyforge today.
Yes, we are.
Before that, you said you had something for me.
Yeah, I want to know, you guys also listening and or watching, let me know in the comments, let us know in the comments, your hobby habits. What is something that you have to do every time you hobby?
Ooh.
Because for me, it's rinse out my paint cup, my water cup, and refresh my palette. Every time.
Every time?
Yeah. I have to. I don't know why.
What if on your wet palette all you have is like two colours, two little dots in the corner? Will you just go to the other corner?
I'll rehydrate it.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you do. What's the habit you do? What do you do? What's your habit every time you hobby? You have to do something.
Yeah, good question. I have to... Yeah, not much.
No,
I don't know. Like, my setup is always exactly the same, though.
Yeah.
That's probably true for everyone. I've got, like, I fold a paper towel.
Yep.
In half and half again.
Yes, double half.
Yep. And
Quarters,
tuck it slightly under the wet palette.
Oh, you got the old fold and tuck.
The old fold and tuck, so it sits just a little bit under the wet palette, so it stays there.
Don't know about that. The wet palette's now on a slight angle.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking unregisterable levels. And my cup is above. Yeah, so everything is in exactly the same space.
Yeah.
And when I'm done with paints, paint brushes, they go on the exact same spot.
Nice.
So I guess that's a habit.
Yeah. Yep.
But let us know if you do weird stuff like Shane, like rinsing out his paint pot. Oh, I better turn my phone on silent.
Indeed.
Hey, it's someone saying, my hobby habits. No, that doesn't make any sense. The episode's not live.
It doesn't work like that.
Keyforge. Why on earth are we talking about Keyforge?
I don't know, man. It's just a game that came and went back in an innocent time of 2018.
To be young. So Keyforge is a card game. And this is only the second time we've talked about a card game on the podcast.
The other one was Wartide.
Correct. Check out Wartide.
Yeah.
Which is still going.
Yes, it is still going.
Still going.
Yeah.
Which is still going.
And going more and more than it was when we talked about it.
Yeah, great. So go check out Wartide. Now, card games are tabletop games.
They're played on a table.
They fall into our massive banner of tabletop podcasts. So it's okay. We're allowed to talk about this. I'm convincing myself.
Yeah, you're saying like you have to justify it. Like someone out there watching says, no, you can't.
What'd you call me? What'd you call me?
You cannot talk about card games.
So there's a reason we're talking about Keyforge.
Yep.
Mostly because we got randomly talking about it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, after the last episode, we sort of started talking about like, wait. This is
interesting
content.
Because Keyforge is interesting.
Yes, it is.
So Keyforge is a card game where, quite simply, just like all the other card games, like it's Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc. You got a deck of cards and you do stuff. In Keyforge, you put down monsters, try and control the field, generate ember, and use that ember to forge keys. First person to forge 3 keys wins. It's a pretty simple game.
Yeah.
The intrigue around it comes from the fact that it has procedurally generated decks.
Yes. Every deck is unique.
Completely unique. No two decks on planet Earth in Keyforge are the same.
Except for the 2 that come in the starter set.
No.
Yeah. I watched Rodney Smith play it.
No.
And he said in the starter box, there are 2 decks that come as intro decks.
What?
And then there are 2 sealed decks.
What?
He said...
Oh, so there's intro decks.
My boy Rodney
said
there are 2 decks in there that are used as an introduction.
Okay.
That are not sealed.
Sure.
And then it comes with 2 additional random sealed decks.
So every deck that you can play Keyforge with that's not the introduction game is completely unique.
Yes.
And if you want to play the introduction game over and over again,
you can.
You can, for whatever reason. Yeah, so regardless of that caveat, every deck in Keyforge is 100% unique
Except for the intro decks.
in its card makeup.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, each deck has a procedurally generated name
Yeah. And artwork,
and artwork.
which is crazy.
It's awesome because, like, that means they're only printing, you know, other card games, they'll print a ton of cards.
Yep.
They'll print thousands of this one card because
many
the front and the back are the same.
Potions did you have in Pokemon?
Totally. Yeah. 3 or 4. Whereas,
Ever?
because the card back is unique to you, they're printing this card once.
Yeah.
Just once.
It's crazy. Just to think they have to set that up.
Yeah.
To print once.
Yeah. So they've got a printer that runs off magic.
Magic.
But I did say that each deck is unique.
Yep.
And has a unique name, procedurally generated, which leads me to our new segment that I'd like to introduce called 3 Archons and a Dud.
Okay.
Brought to you by Skulk Bakery. So, what you need to do, Shane, I'm going to read you 4
Yep.
names of decks.
Okay.
And you're going to tell me which are actual Keyforge decks,
Yep.
or rather which one isn't.
First of all, what's an Archon?
So an Archon is, I don't know how to explain it,
Okay.
but
Never
like
mind.
an Archon is what the deck is the Archon,
Okay. Yep.
basically.
As in, like, you, the controller of the deck, are you the Archon?
So the Archon is the picture on the back of the card, and the name of the deck is the Archon's name.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's lore there, but I've forgotten it. It's not important when you're doing a whole episode dedicated to a game to know stuff about the actual game.
Not at all.
I don't think.
All right. Hit us with these 4 Archons.
Okay. The first, the droid that coughs on demographics.
Mm-hmm.
Sweetie Dazzle, the Barber Ripper. You following?
Yes, I am following. Is that 3?
That's 2.
Oh, Sweetie Dazzle, the Barber Ripper.
Yeah. that's
Barber Ripper, as in someone who cuts hair,
it. Yeah.
but also murders women in the night.
Maybe women.
Okay.
Or it's a barber who does ripping. Mm-hmm. Like of CDs.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Cool. Like
The Emperor that pays for boys.
It's awful.
Wang the suddenly bruised.
So hang on.
Yep. So
Hit us
there's-
again, 'cause-
There's Wang the suddenly bruised.
Yep.
The Emperor that pays for boys.
Yep.
Sweetie Dazzle, the Barber Ripper,
Okay.
and the droid that coughs on demographics.
I'm gonna say the dud is the droid that coughs on demographics.
Ding, 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 ding. He lost. All 4 of them are Archons.
It's terrible. They're
You
all
did-
terrible names.
Yeah, and you did that to me once, and I've been wanting to pay you back. Where you were like, I can't remember what it was, but you made me,
It was AI. It was Chat GPT.
That's right.
Or me.
and you wrote none of them or all of
Yeah.
them. I can't remember.
All of them were written by me.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
made me pick. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
ever since then, I was like, I'm going to get you back.
That's
you
fine.
could never have won that game.
I could never have won that game.
If it makes you happy, the Wang the suddenly bruised and the Emperor that pays for boys are both on the banned deck list.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
That was one flaw with Keyforge, was that some of the names would land the decks on the banned list.
I'm not big on cancel culture, but the Emperor who pays for boys should be
cancelled.
forgotten about. Yes.
So congratulations,
Immediately.
you won.
Oh, I got a
because
prize?
this was brought to you by Skulk Bakery. So
You keep saying that we have these sponsors, but I'm not seeing no bakery money.
take a piece of bread.
Oh, thank you.
Rory, Churchy, would you like a piece of bread? Oh, good. I made this an hour ago.
It's fresh.
It's good, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Give that to Churchy. He'll regret not having it.
Hey, he's missing out.
Yeah, I made that. Yeah.
I'll continue to
Okay.
eat that later when we're off camera.
No, you can eat it now because
No,
I'm going to do some talking. All right.
Yeah, it looks
Sorry, I
fluffy
should've-
like a cloud.
It is fluffy.
So,
Well done. That's very nice bread.
hopefully, that segment can come back.
I'll
But I mean,
take
it's
more bread.
just-
The bread's
Huh?
good.
I'll take more bread.
Yeah, exactly. We might have to start winning some games, dude.
No,
So,
crap.
all right, we talked about Keyforge.
We are talking about Keyforge.
The decks are unique.
Yep.
You can't change them. They're not customizable.
No,
you
so
can't
it's
swap
not-
out
Yeah,
cards.
no deck building.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Because it means if you buy a deck, that's it. $15 Australian.
Yep.
Or I think on release they're like $20 or whatever.
Yeah.
$15 to $20 Australian. You buy your deck and you're in, and you can play the game. Who And it was mentioned that these would all be balanced. So all these decks are balanced against each other. So unlike other card games at the time, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, Duel Masters, etc., you would just be forking out hundreds of dollars for a competitive deck.
Because you're trying to buy particular cards to build your deck around, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or you just go to there's a lot of great like online stores.
Yeah, like Guff.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
That have a heap of cards, and you just go, all right, I'll build my deck. Here's the list that I got off the net because someone else is playing this and it's good.
I need these cards.
I need these cards. Add to cart. Make my deck.
So it's like meta deck building. Like we
That's
see
what that
as
is.
in like meta list building
Yeah.
for like Warhammer.
Yeah, exactly.
cool.
Yep, it's called net decking.
Not net listing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So this was going to eliminate that because
Yep.
you just need one deck, and maybe you'll get a couple if you want different play styles, etc. But this was revolutionary at the time, but it's quite ambitious
Yes.
because it basically means that you buy one deck and you buy a deck,
Yep.
and when we play, whoever has better mastery of their individual deck is going to be the winner.
So it's trying to reward more experience and skill with a particular deck.
Yeah, and it's really great because
Yeah.
you need to figure out your own combos and whatever.
Yep.
And you'll never play against the same deck twice, ever, which is another...
Oh, as in different opponents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the same opponent, but... Oh, yeah. Like he could use the same deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you played 3 different decks, I'll never play against those with anyone else.
No.
So that's really cool as well. But when you hear about this game, you go, that's too ambitious. Who on earth is making this? Because
Who's smart enough?
who's smart enough?
Yep.
Is this some new person who's just got this ridiculous Kickstarter crowdfunding ambition idea, like the little air umbrella?
Huh?
Did you ever see those umbrellas where it was like supposed to shoot air out the top?
Oh,
And it was shot air so that the rain would never hit you.
okay.
Because it's like the rain's coming down, but the air is shooting off to the side.
Yeah.
So you're just holding a stick.
Yeah.
And air is the barrier.
Did it work?
No, it didn't.
Wasn't enough air.
Exactly, I guess. But also, like, where's the power come from if you're just holding a stick?
Battery, a fan.
You blow into the end of it.
Constantly, because the rain doesn't stop, so you can't stop. Anyways,
Okay.
the person who created this game is called Richard Garfield.
Richard Garfield. Yes.
He's created. What's good is he had a bit of a repertoire. So
Yep.
he'd helped produce 20 games.
Wow. So he knows what he's doing.
Some of the games were Android Netrunner, BattleTech TCG, Star Wars Trading Card Game, and most notably, Magic the Gathering.
Wow.
So this is being made by the guy who made Magic the Gathering.
Who started Magic the Gathering, or
Yeah.
who helped at some point in time?
No. He was the
Like
the
one of the
founder.
co-founders.
Yeah. Like one of the original
Wow.
chiseled name in the
OG.
an OG. And so then you go, all right, this isn't just some unknown ambitious concept.
Yep. He knows how to make card games.
If someone's going to do it, it's this guy.
Yeah.
Fun fact about
Richard Garfield.
Richard Garfield is that he's the great-great-grandson of former US President James A. Garfield.
Oh yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
But related to a president.
That's pretty cool.
Anyway, so the mastermind has created a game
Yep.
with a really tight rule set and actually delivered on this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds incredible, right?
Yeah.
And it was.
It was. I remember when it came out, you were hyped. I bought a deck, and then we couldn't play because we're all in lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. So upon release of this game, I want to take people back to 2018.
Oh man, to think of 2018 as an innocent time, I remember being in 2018 and thinking like, this time sucks. It gets worse.
Yeah, let's go back and tell ourselves, invest in Bitcoin, and it gets worse.
And it gets worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, although 2018 might have been the peak. Anyways, sell. Sell.
Who are you telling?
Yeah. So we've heard about this game.
Yep.
A lot of us have fallen out of Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh. There was a large group I played with, like my boss, and there was like a heap of people at work and
Yep.
whatever, and yourself and others. And it sounded like the perfect game because the game itself is quite simple.
Yep.
But this really cool concept of having a unique deck, that barrier for those other games has been removed.
I was never interested in like Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh like
Sure.
as the game itself. I had like the cards, never Magic cards, but I had Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
But I was never really into a card game like this. But then when you brought it up and you said, "Hey, this game, you buy one deck and that's it."
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I could do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it was great for that reason, and it got super popular straight away, and people are opening things and discovering. You're reading your silly archon names, and you're looking through, and you're like, "What combo of factions has this got? Yeah, sweet. How does it play?" You read through your cards. You're trying to figure out your combos. You're playing against each other. It was amazing.
Yep.
And it was really good for a few months, and then you could do these really cool sealed events where you would just buy a deck display, which had like 12 decks in it, and you would all just shuffle them up, give them to people, and you would all take one each and play a little tournament. And then add that deck. Now that you know how to play that deck, you add it to your repertoire. I've said repertoire 3 times.
Well,
I don't actually know what it means.
It's a word.
Yeah, it is a word. So, what happened?
Yes, what did happen?
There's 2 big problems with Keyforge. As we were repping out these games, we noticed 2 main things. And the first was, as we were playing, I'm like, that guy's deck, I know it says it's balanced, but that feels a lot stronger than mine. Maybe he's just better. So we would swap decks. All the time we would swap decks. And I was like, okay, now I'm winning every game. Let's swap back. Okay, now you've won 3 in a row. I think it's quite safe to say that deck's better than this deck. So let's play it against another one. Maybe it's a paper, scissors, rock thing. You've got the rock. I've just got some scissors. Let's go get my paper. All right, your rock crushed my paper too.
It's a rock.
And then sort of at the same time we're repping this out and playing this, some online, some websites come out where you have the ability to scan your deck and it gives you a score.
Because each deck has a QR code.
So you can scan it, which is another cool feature. You could always scan it into your app, and you could make notes about your deck and keep a log of it in this app. Wins and losses, keep all that stuff, which is great. But yeah, the QR code allowed you to also, you also got a deck ID number, so you could import that ID number into the website, and it would be like, okay, out of 100 or 110 or whatever, this is a rating we're giving your deck based on its efficiency and its synergies. And you were like, oh no, first of all, I suspected this game wasn't balanced. But now you're telling me we can just jump on this website, scan our deck, and know straight away.
See if it's under 50, it's like, what's even worth playing it?
Yeah, exactly. And the worst part was, anecdotally, it looked very accurate. So like we would scan, there was like 2 decks we sort of had in our player group, that one guy had both of them. And we were suspicious that they were really strong. And we scanned them in and they were like really high. And we're like, well, that kind of confirms that
those decks are too powerful.
Those scores are kind of accurate, and that makes a difference. And so for a game where the biggest appeal is that you can just buy a deck and it's balanced, you can start playing competitively with it straight away. Having a poor balance is kind of a drawback.
I don't think anything can ever be balanced though.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure now. I could be wrong, but I've even heard that chess isn't balanced.
Right, that's interesting.
You know, it's. I think it's white has a higher win rate, but it's like by like 1% or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
is that because I don't know anything
because they go first? Maybe
do they go first?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a chess grandmaster. So I don't know anything either. But
and I guess there's a difference between if we played 10 games and you won 6 out of 10. That's okay.
That's fine.
But if you're winning 9 out of 10,
or 8 out of 10, even,
and the game boasts that wouldn't be the case. I think that's where it gets rough. And because you can't make your deck any better, there's no, because it's like, well, if this deck isn't good, then it goes in the bin. I can't improve it. I can't get new cards to throw in there. The other issue with it was, although every deck was truly unique, you played and they didn't feel like they were truly unique. Because the pool of cards was kind of small. Because although the set might have 300 cards, it's split into 7 factions. And each of these factions, you get 3 of these 7 in your deck randomly. So for example, I've got a couple decks here. Nielsen of the Mage Park Plinth has a faction called Brobna, Sanctum, and Logos.
Okay.
You can't really see it, but there's a little archon back here with my little things.
Yep.
And each faction has 12 cards, making a deck of 36 cards.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
And so the thing is, if each faction, let's use Logos for an example, Logos, they might have a grand pool of 100 cards, and this deck algorithm will pull 12 of them
Yep.
and put them in your deck.
Yep.
Eventually, over the course of playing these games, you see all the Logos cards.
Yep.
And you figure out how they all kind of work together. And although your deck doesn't exist anywhere else, you're playing Help from Future Self and a Brain Eater,
Yep.
just like everyone else is in
Yeah,
Logos. Yeah, you might be the only one in the world that has 2 copies of
Yep.
this one and 1 copy of that and 3 of another. But they're the same cards, and I'm used to seeing them.
Yep.
I can see them on your deck list. I know they're coming. So the 2 things they had going for it, which were balance and unique experiences between games and unique combos, were kind of gone once you got through the first set, because you were like, okay, well, the game's not actually balanced.
Yeah.
And we've repped this out enough that, like, your unique deck doesn't feel unique.
Yeah, because you know the cards.
You know the cards. All the combos are the same, and
Yep.
all the cards are the same. It's just the distribution of them that's slightly different.
You could have 2 decks that are different because they have only one single card difference.
Correct.
You may come across that.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
possible.
Yep.
Yeah. So, luckily, both problems were, in theory, fixable.
Yep.
And it all hinged on whatever they did with their next set. So far, we're just talking about the first set.
Yep.
Came out, massive hype, some problems. Game was still great, but it fizzled down as people had played more games, because there was... You came to that situation where you're playing against the same stuff.
Yep. Yep.
And you realized, well, okay, this game, if it's not balanced, people are out there just chasing these really expensive decks.
Yeah.
And now we're just like every other card game, where instead of buying boosters to try and get some good cards to be able to sell and make our net lists, we're just buying deck boxes and scanning them all in and throwing out anything under 60.
Yep. So
So-
if you buy a deck box, you scan it, you find one that's like a 99.
Yeah.
That's gone on eBay for like $1,000.
Well, yeah, you definitely could, because people were just blind buying high rated decks.
Yep.
Really, the deck system has always only ever been a measure, like the deck rating system has only ever been a measure of when to investigate a deck.
Okay. Yep.
Basically, if you see something 99, you go, okay, that's obviously come up with some good synergies or whatever. I should play that.
Yep.
The rule, every Keyforge person will always tell you, just play the decks.
Yep.
That's going to tell you how good it is. There are decks that win tournaments with low ratings.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
typically the rule is the more consistent it is, the more it'll show up on that rating. But yeah, you would just scan them through. You'd be like, hi, all my 80s, I'll just play those. I'm not going to waste my time with those 60s and 70s.
Nah.
I'll just hit the 80s. I'll sell my 90s, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it became kind of a whale hunting game like all of them. And
Yeah.
it's just like, all right, well, I got into this because of the prospect of buying a handful of decks, and that was it. And just playing, being able to show up to tournaments with that was appealing. But now that it's just like everything. Anyways, so they needed to fix those 2 things, and they could do that if they released a huge range of new cards, new combos, maybe some new factions, and made the balance better in the second set.
Okay.
So make the second set more interesting to play,
Yep.
and make the balance better.
Does that
Fix
mean
the balance
Does that
issues.
mean you would no longer see cards from the first set?
Well, yeah. I mean, the tricky thing is they probably would have had to make the second set stronger than the first set.
Yep.
So that people only started playing the second set onwards, but just have that strength balanced.
Yeah.
So that's one way they could have fixed it.
Yep.
But ultimately, the second set came out called Age of Ascension,
Okay.
and it didn't add any new factions.
Okay.
Added a couple new mechanics, but all the factions were the same, and they even brought in some old cards as well.
Oh yeah.
So it kind of flopped. It flopped hard. People wanted something fresh and new
And they
and
didn't
interesting,
deliver.
and they did not deliver that.
Yeah.
Not at all. So that's where actually a large part of the player base stopped.
Yep.
There was a massive drop off after Age of Ascension, which is a shame because if people had have held out, the next few expansions that came after that were fantastic.
Do you think the following expansions were like a panic mode, like crap, the last one flopped, let's make sure this doesn't flop? Like did they choose not to listen to the players after before the second set came out? And they've gone, no, we've got ideas, we'll do this, and then they've gone, crap, it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no idea. I've got no idea. I think Age of Ascension was planned, like the first expansion was planned basically from day dot.
Okay, yeah, of course, you'd have that in the pipeline.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of thought went into the next two, so it doesn't feel like a knee jerk. Potentially, they got a bit wild with the next two sets in a good way. Possibly them going, all right, well, Age of Ascension was a very safe set.
Yep.
And it didn't work. So, I mean,
turn it up.
we've just got to turn it up.
Yep.
They could possibly, or maybe they had it all planned from the day. Who knows? So the first set came out November 2018.
Yep.
Age of Ascension came out in May 2019. So was that April, May?
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months.
Yep.
Yeah, so a pretty good turnaround. But 6 months in a card game is a long time.
Yep.
When you've been repping out the same decks and seeing the same opponents over and over again, it was a long gap.
Okay.
So people kind of just crawled their way through to that set, and when it didn't deliver, that's why there was such a big exodus.
Yeah, we waited this long, and we've been given this.
Yeah. 6 months after that, Worlds Collide came out, which actually brought some new factions.
Oh, new factions.
Which made things, and a few new mechanics, which made things really interesting. It was a great set. The new factions were fantastic. And then Mass Mutation came out 6 months. They're sort of all 6 months apart. Mass Mutations came out after that, and that added, what's it called? Enhancements.
Okay.
Which is a really cool mechanic as well. So those two sets were both really great.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they both dropped. I mean, Worlds Collide was November 2019, and Mass Mutations was July 2020.
Okay.
So we're peak COVID now.
Yeah.
So Worlds Collide got a little bit of play before COVID.
Yep.
And then Mass Mutations was just in COVID.
Yeah, because there's just no games being played.
Yeah, exactly. They had an online thing, which was great.
Yeah.
It's an unofficial thing called the Crucible Online, still around,
So,
still playable.
and that's because you could scan your deck and then play it online, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you could even use other people's decks.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people were, if they wanted to buy a deck, they would play that a heap first, and then be like, it's actually worth the 99 rating it gives you, or whatever. So that was kind of cool. It allowed for a lot of tournaments, but again, Age of Ascension had already soured the well with a lot of people, poisoned the well.
Yeah.
And then Dark Tidings was set to come out in March 2021. And I remember getting around this because some of the mechanics they talked about, I'd heard that the previous two sets were really good. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, here we go. Two sets really good. Maybe I'll get back into Keyforge. Dark Tidings then talked about this new mechanic called a Tide mechanic.
Okay.
And that was really interesting. And an evil twin deck.
Okay.
And everyone was like, it raised a lot of eyebrows and people were pretty hyped.
Yeah.
I remember the consensus was like, this is going to be really good when you combine this with the previous two sets of enhancements and new factions. And Dark Tidings came out, and it's so aptly named because it brought with it Dark Tidings for Keyforge.
Okay.
Because it under-delivered hard. It was woeful. It was complicated, and it did more restricting than anything.
Is this set 4 now?
This is set. The fourth expansion. The fifth set. So Call of the Archons, Age of Ascension, then Worlds Collide, then Mass Mutations, then Dark Tidings.
Okay.
And Dark Tidings was March 2021, and that's the last set that was ever released by Fantasy Flight Games.
Wow. So it's now been 2 years.
Yep. And then not long after Dark Tidings came out, 6 months, I think, Fantasy Flight Games announced that the algorithm for Keyforge was broken. Okay. And needed to be rebuilt from the ground up.
Wow.
So Keyforge is going on a hiatus.
Okay. Yeah.
So, which is interesting because the algorithm around Keyforge is basically like a lot of people probably listen and go, well, if you just threw 36 cards together, random cards, of course you're going to have balance issues. Like, How do they work together? Some might not work together.
Yeah.
It's not as wild as that.
Yeah.
The algorithm splits it up into factions, and all your factions, you only play one faction at a time in the game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of easier to balance. And there in the algorithm, it has things where it's like it would tell you if this person has a card that needs an artifact, also include an artifact in the deck.
Yes. Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
If they have a card that says search your deck for this, make sure that's in the deck.
Yeah.
If this thing requires lots of monsters, don't give them no monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So the algorithm would have all of these little rules
Yep.
in it. So it's a weird concept to say that it's suddenly broke and they can't print decks. And it's interesting that they say that 6 months after the worst release that they've had.
Yep.
So there's conspiracies around.
Of course.
Around.
It's a game and it's on the internet. Of course, there's conspiracies.
Of course. So one thing was Fantasy Flight Games, who produced this game, that was created by Richard Garfield.
Yep.
I forgot what I was going to say. I caught a whiff of my bread and I got distracted. So what was I saying? It's
Fantasy Flight
That's
Games.
right. Fantasy Flight Games. So the algorithm was broken.
Yes.
They
Quote,
had
unquote, broken.
They had a ransomware attack at some point.
Yep.
And people are like, oh, the ransomware got the algorithm.
So someone was unhappy with
Maybe.
the fifth set and they've sent the ransomware in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had no backups, it's a weird idea.
Everyone has backups.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another idea was that they actually, during COVID, they did do layoffs. They're like,
Yeah.
maybe they fired the algorithm guy, and then a ransomware thing came out.
Or they fired they fired the algorithm guy and he's gone, this will show him.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Alt F4.
Yeah.
And then left. Yeah.
Highlights a line of code, delete.
Yeah.
Got him. And another theory is that the algorithm was never broken. They just wanted a way to get out of Keyforge without admitting that the game failed.
Yeah.
Because they wanted the opportunity to later try and sell it to someone else. And if they say, hey, the game failed, buy it, you won't. But if they're like, oh, hey, this game is really good, but we just need you to rebuild the
Just needs
algorithm.
some fixing.
Yeah, you fix it and you got a grant. There's so
It's like
many.
selling a car, dude.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's good car. You just need
Yeah.
it just needs a little bit of work, a little bit of love.
You just put a wheel on that and you got a brand new car.
And an engine cover.
Yeah. Or take it without, but it's $100 less. So who knows what happened?
Yeah.
But Fantasy Flight Games has now sold Keyforge to a company called Ghost Galaxy.
Okay.
Who their campaign, they did a crowdfund for a new set called Wings of Exchange. Mm-hmm. They crowdfunded it, and that's coming out in July.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
like in a month's time.
Well, sorry, everyone that kickstarted crowdfunded, because it was on GameFound, crowdfunded the game, already have their copies or are getting their copies, and they're playing the game, this new set from the new company who somehow fixed the algorithm.
Yep.
And retail is expected to be in July.
Okay.
So it's coming out in retail in July.
Yep.
So Keyforge ain't dead.
No.
It didn't hear no bell. Well, it did. It died.
There was no pulse.
For
exactly. 2 years.
But then someone came along, Ghost Galaxy, went, clear.
Yeah.
And here we are.
It has sputtered back into life.
What's interesting is that the owner of Ghost Galaxy, I forget his name, is the founder of Fantasy Flight Games.
Okay.
Who, since he's obviously left, created his own company and now bought a title from his previous company.
It's amazing, like, with all these game industries and that's like everyone's been in bed with everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what's the Mantic guys once worked for GW or whatever.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
It's just like everyone's just been at it.
Yeah.
And they're just changing shirts.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. It was funny kind of looking through some of the Keyforge history and going, so the company that owns it is run by the guy that started the company that used to own it, and and backed it by a creator who made Magic the Gathering, who's the great grandson of a former US president. I was like, what is this?
It's like
yeah. And so they made a game that was purely ambitious and had never been done before, and was a huge like the hype for the game was up here, and then 6 months later, no one's talking about it, and then it started to pick up again, and then it disappeared again.
Yeah.
And then it got cancelled. Oh wait, no, it's coming out again. It's just been a wild ride.
Yeah.
Exploring Keyforge.
I feel like if the first set wasn't as good as it was, like
Yeah.
it didn't have the play base that it did, and it had just had the hype.
Yeah.
It would be easy to look at it as like a cash grab.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
like any early access game that comes on Steam,
Yeah.
that just like all of a sudden gets abandoned 6 months into development, or Kickstarters that don't follow through.
Yeah, like the umbrella.
Like the umbrella, or one that I backed, which I'm getting awfully worried about.
Star Citizen?
Nah, it's not. Everyone gets it. Like you could easily look at it and be like, wow, were they just trying to make some cash?
Yeah.
But I feel like because the first one did so well and delivered so well,
Yeah.
maybe there was just a couple of errors done, a few wrong turns in development. and
100%. It was just a few slight missteps.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that killed it anecdotally for our group was just the balance issue and how big it was.
Yeah.
Like, I think if the balance had been, you're talking like 10% between decks, you go, of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
You can't make... And if the balance issue was simply that some decks had combos more consistently,
Yep.
that's okay.
Yep.
If you can more consistently do the thing that faction does than I can, I mean, that's just nice.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
job. But it was so much more than that, to the
Yep.
point where, like, you could play a deck and it felt garbage.
Mm-hmm.
It felt disjointed. It felt like... And then you've got another one that you play and it feels seamless.
Yep.
And it was just so night and day. And you could take a singular game to do it, and you're just like, okay, the balance issue is just so massive that we are just going to be deck hunting.
Yep.
And it's never going to become a game where you net list and you go and try and build that. But it is going to be a game where you spend that same amount of money trying to get those gold tier decks.
Yeah, yeah. As you would if you were building a deck.
Yeah.
Buying individual cards and
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned earlier that decks could be banned. Now I know cards can be banned from other games, right?
Yeah.
So could you not just ban a powerful deck?
you definitely could. And
If you're playing with your mates, but if you're playing with your mates and Steve just runs in with this deck that stomps everyone every time.
Yeah.
You'd be like, you're not bringing that deck tonight.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely can. You can do that anytime.
Yeah.
You just beat the shit out of them. You'd be like, you bring that deck. You're not going home with that deck. Not unfortunately, a lot of the Keyforge stuff was like proper. If I recall, proper sanctioned Keyforge events.
Yep.
They would give you a lot of actual Keyforge products to be able to run proper tournaments.
Yep.
And so I think a little bit of the power is taken away from the tournament organizers in that regard, because you don't want people complaining that, oh, this guy kicked me out of the thing because I played a deck. I bought this deck.
Yeah.
Why can't I use it?
Yeah.
What? Because it's good? That's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's their game. And also the logistical nightmare of if that person's traveling around to tournaments and tournament organizers can't really be on top of everyone's deck.
No, but yeah, would they not know the name of the deck or the number of the deck? No.
Nah. Because you got so
Fair.
many people that have especially when people are opening, there's I don't know how many million decks
Okay.
that have been scanned into people's Keyforge things.
Yeah.
It's on their website. I think there used to be a counter. But yeah, anyway, so there's so many decks out there. A lot of people who play Keyforge have opened 50 plus decks.
Yep.
And they can rock up any day with an insane deck. I mean, luckily, I think it's way more balanced now.
Yep.
Because the sheer weight of decks that are out there and all that, I think it's kind of leveled itself out. You see people winning with just regular scored decks.
Okay.
That just plays really well, and they play it really well. So, which is encouraging, and that's the exciting part of the game.
Yep.
And it's still a great game. Mechanically, it's fantastic. You can play any deck from any set against any deck from any set.
Oh yeah.
So you take these regular old boring original sets we got,
Yep.
and you go play something like Mass Mutations. They're doing all crazy stuff, but we're still in the game together.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's still balanced.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah. So Keyforge is great. I'm really interested to see what this new set by this new company, a fresh face,
Yep.
what it looks like in July, and how long it sticks around, and see how it goes.
Be interesting.
But yeah, that's Keyforge. It didn't die. If you heard of it once and it was a whisper and you're like, where did that go?
It's coming back.
It's coming back very soon, in a month or two. Makes you think. Makes you think. So we want to know. I want to know because I was messaging and chatting to people on forums all week.
Yeah, you've been like all up in that.
I've been all up
page.
in that. Yeah.
You say forums, but it's Facebook.
Yeah, and Reddit. That's the only two I know. And 4chan, man. I'm on the boards.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, if you've played Keyforge, when and how long for?
Yep.
Where was the drop off for you? Have you loved it? There's so many people that have just been in it and hyped the whole time.
Yeah.
And I love that. And they watch.
That's good.
And people have been talking about how they watch like the scene around them kind of dwindle.
Yeah.
And pick back up and dwindle and pick back up. But they're the constant.
They've been that little flame that's
Yeah.
kept it going.
Yeah.
Well done.
Why?
Well done to
Why?
those people that keep any community going.
For sure.
You know, it is a hard thing to do. And if everyone you know stops playing it, but you're just, you're still plodding along and then they want to jump back in,
Yeah.
sweet. Cool.
I did see something just before that, like, there's a new thing where you scan your decks in to claim ownership of it.
Okay.
And once you have ownership of it, you can actually get it like custom printed.
Oh, right.
So you can change the borders and I think the background and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So you would custom order it from Ghost Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's something that they mentioned that they were doing. I was
That's
like,
pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And I'm like, of course, why wouldn't it? Because previously you'd be like, well, why would they just turn the printer on for one deck
Yeah.
that they're never going to print again? That's what they do. That's the whole thing.
That's the whole MO.
That's the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Anyways,
Cool.
jump in the Discord, chat to us about Keyforge.
Yeah.
Because we'll be playing it
Yeah,
a bit.
you can find links to that on hobbyhomies.com. We also have links to our Patreon. For as little as $2 a month, you get early access to videos like this, battle reports, and all that kind of fun stuff, which I found on our second channel. Also links in the description for that.
Links down there.
Down there.
Yeah, that's it. Anytime if you want video content and you're only subscribed to this channel, you won't see it.
Nah.
So you got to go to that other one.
Yep.
Sub, and if we ever release a video, it'll go there.
It's slowly. I'm slowly re-upping, which is a term the kids use these days, re-upping everything onto that.
He's re-upping everyone. I
Yep.
want you to know.
No cap.
No, jeez. That's so mid, dude. I mean, go off, King. All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, massive shout out to our patrons. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing what we do.
What would we be doing? Doesn't matter.
I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Not this, that's
Not
for
this.
sure. As always, we have Burnsy, Final Dinosaur, Lethal, Gridlock, Axe, Anax, MJ, Whack the Ewok, Test Dummy, and Black Apollo.
We got Brandon W, Moose, Elko, Churchy, thanks Churchy, Rad, Ollie, Hockers, Penny, Aggro, Don Hua, Don, Pure Blind, and Big Butch. You're all amazing. Your continued support allows us to buy Keyforge deck after Keyforge deck. And that's all. That's
Yeah.
all we have money for.
Also, make sure you guys get to PAX Australia in Melbourne in October. I'll be there.
Oh, I might. I don't know. Yeah.
I have been blessed with a media pass.
What? What do you do with that?
It's film stuff.
Okay. I'll be there then.
A few homies will be there, so check it out. Goes for 3 days, and maybe we can catch up and have a beer.
And then Shane will re-up it.
I'll re-up it. No cap.
Peace.
For real.
For real.
FR.
F.
Woo! Big up to the boys, Fox and Shane. Set your minds free, no locks and chains. Do what you love.